Mr Stephen Mosley.
Speaker, the atmosphere that enveloped this chamber when the Prime Minister made his statement to the House last month is one that will stay with me for the rest of my life. It was an atmosphere that was echoed across the country as the truth of what happened at Hillsborough was revealed. To learn that the lives of 41 people could have been saved, and to discover that those responsible sought to manipulate the truth, to conceal their own guilt, and to shift the blame onto the innocent victims of the day, is one of the greatest scandals in our history. The failures, the flaws, the corruption and the deceit of those culpable has been laid bare for all to see. But most importantly, the reputation, the honour, the persistence of those who sought the truth for so long has been vindicated. Reading through the panel's report, Mr Speaker, it is difficult to identify which of the many failings caused the most harm. The cavalier attitude towards health and safety at the ground, a stadium which had no safety certificate and a terrible record of near misses at big matches in previous years. The complete absence of leadership, communication and responsibility by those supposedly in charge on the day, or the perpetuation of lies by those self-serving individuals in positions of senior authority who tried to absolve themselves of responsibility. Each of those and the many other revelations that the report highlights are truly shocking to discover, and we owe the members of the panel a huge debt of gratitude for their diligence, their hard work, and for the clarity with which they have presented their findings. Looking around this chamber, I can see many honourable and right honourable members who have fought long and hard to ensure that the truth about Hillsborough has been brought to the public's attention. And what many of us cannot understand is why has it taken so long? Whilst there is much in the panel's report that is new, and much has been revealed and published for the first time, there is also a huge amount that has been known about for a very long time. But over the course of 23 years, it has either been ignored, dismissed, or ridiculed. A case in point, Mr Speaker, where information and evidence has clearly been ignored, is that of my constituent's son, Kevin Williams. As with all 96 victims, the inquest into his death ruled that Kevin died at or before 3:15 p.m. Yet at 3:28, video evidence showed Kevin being lifted out of Pen 3 and being resuscitated on the pitch by PC Michael Craighill. At 3:31, Kevin was carried across the pitch by, amongst others, an off-duty fire officer, Mr Tony O'Keefe, who stated that Kevin was still alive. At 3:37, Kevin was resuscitated by an off-duty police officer, PC Derek Bruder, who testified that Kevin was still alive. And finally, Special WPC Deborah Martin found Kevin's pulse, picked him up in her arms, and watched and listened as he opened his eyes, spoke the word mum, and then died just before 4 o'clock. There has never really been any doubt about what happened to Kevin Williams. The eyewitness accounts on the day were unequivocal. Kevin was still alive just before 4 p.m. The evidence has been presented to 3 previous Attorney Generals on 3 separate occasions. The facts of what happened to Kevin were recounted in this House in an adjournment debate as far back as 1994. What happened to Kevin and what happened to so many others has not been a secret. Yet it was only last month, with the Prime Minister's statement and the publication of the Independent Panel's report, that the truth has finally been accepted.
Thank the honourable gentleman for giving way. I spoke to Anne Williams today, who's not well enough to be here tonight, but she will be watching the proceedings on the television. But isn't that an example of a testament of a mother's love, that somebody would continue that fight despite the fact that time after time the legal doors were slammed in that woman's face and she went as far as the European Court and was turned down? Isn't that an absolutely national disgrace?
I spoke to Mrs Williams on Friday and she passed on her regards and her thanks to members such as yourself, such as the Right Honourable Member for Lee, who have done so much to make sure that we've got to where we are now. And I, myself, am totally grateful that the truth is now out there. And as you said, it is a total disgrace that it's taken so long. Mr. Speaker, we now know that witness statements were altered in the weeks and months after the tragedy. And last week, the Independent Police Complaints Commission launched an investigation into the process of amendments undertaken by South Yorkshire Police. In addition, the IPCC said that the role of the West Midlands Police will be examined as part of their investigations, and it is the role of the West Midlands Police that I now want to move on to. As I said previously, Mr. Speaker, at 3:37, Kevin Williams was being resuscitated by off-duty police officer PC Derek Bruder. PC Bruder had seen Kevin moving his head and being sick, so he went over to help. He saw an ambulance and tried to stop it so that Kevin could receive medical attention. PC Bruder provided an official statement shortly afterwards, along with a second statement 4 months later. He was then visited at his home on the 3rd of May 1990 by a West Midlands Detective Inspector to take a further statement. PC Bruder was told that the video footage had been studied and that the ambulance he referred to in his statement was not in the ground at the time, and he must therefore be mistaken. PC Bruder stuck to his evidence and told the Detective Inspector that he would be available to give evidence at the inquest. But PC Bruder was not called to give evidence at the inquest. Instead, Detective Inspector Sawyers said at Kevin's inquest that PC Bruder was mistaken about the ambulance, and that PC Bruder was also mistaken about taking a pulse from Kevin, and also mistaken about seeing him be sick. It's quickly worth noting that, contrary to the evidence given at the inquest, video and photographic evidence was available, along with a statement from the assistant driver of the ambulance, Mr. Tony Edwards, that confirmed PC Bruder's testimony that an ambulance did pass them at 3:37. PC Bruder's evidence was correct all along and should not have been ignored and dismissed at the initial inquest. Another example of the inappropriate actions of West Midlands Police is in relation to the Special Constable who held Kevin in her arms as he passed away shortly before 4 p.m. Special WPC Deborah Martin's original statement, made within weeks of the disaster, described finding Kevin's pulse, resuscitating him, hearing him call for his mother, and holding him as he died at just before 4 p.m. However, a few months later, Miss Martin was visited at her home by West Midlands police officers. In total, Miss Martin was visited on 4 separate occasions by senior police officers whose aim was to convince her that her original statement was mistaken and that Kevin was not alive when she treated him. Considerable pressure was put on Miss Martin to ratify the amended statement. And I understand that Miss Martin was even told that she couldn't have looked after Kevin because she wasn't at Hillsborough. She was accused of standing by and doing nothing as people died. She was told she was making the whole thing up. In the end, she succumbed to the pressure and signed the second statement without reading it. In the second statement, everything that referred to signs of life in Kevin was gone. No reference to a pulse, no reference to him saying mum. Miss Martin has stated on numerous occasions that she stands by what was in her original statement and that she was bullied by senior police officers to sign the second inaccurate statement.
I'm most grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. But would you not agree with me? She wasn't bullied. The course of justice was perverted.
That would be my reading of the situation. Miss Martin is very clear on what happened. I heard her on the radio just last week talking about it, and she was terribly bullied, and it's an awful situation that she found herself in. Moving on, although the conduct of the West Midlands Police is not detailed in the Independent Panel's report, their actions must be called into serious question, and the actions of the West Midlands Police also need to be thoroughly investigated during the IPCC inquiry. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Hillsborough Independent Panel has done a fantastic job, not just in overseeing the full disclosure of information, but also, and importantly, adding to the public understanding of what happened. To ensure that we finally complete the quest for justice, two more tasks need to be undertaken. Firstly, where responsibility has been neglected and where evidence has either been altered or deliberately ignored, prosecutions must follow. And secondly, the Attorney-General must deliver on his promise to ask the High Court for new inquests into the 96 deaths. The previous inquests have been shown to be false and they must now be quashed in law. The circumstances surrounding Hillsborough have remained clouded in the minds of many for over 23 years. People didn't understand what happened, but they do now. After 23 years, the truth has finally been revealed, and now it's time for justice.
Derek Twig.